Well, TSC viewers, this is your host Kaitlyn as always. It's with a bit of a heavy heart that I begin this video, since this is our 10th and final meeting of Topaz Storytelling Club. It's been an amazing summer of fun, and I've loved every minute of it, but even all the best things must come to a close. And hey, with luck, TSD won't be disappearing forever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We still have our last meeting to get through. Today, Monday, August 26th, 2019, we had 3 members join me for our last meeting. Even with such a small group, nothing got in the way of our good time. Today's story is another gem from my childhood, Stella Luna by Janelle Cannon. It features my favorite animal, bats, as its main characters, which I love because it's so unique. It has beautiful illustrations and a sweet story. Baby Stella Luna is separated from her mother mid-flight during an owl attack, and she ends up finding a nest of baby birds to live in. She has to live like a bird and adopt strange habits, like no longer being nocturnal. While learning to fly, she comes across a group of bats and reunites with her mother at last, while also learning that her bat lifestyle isn't weird at all. In the end, she still keeps her friendship with the birds as she remains with the bats. So, all in all, a very cute little journey. Stella Luna is a great story to use for today's concept, plot structure. Having a plot be arranged in a way that makes sense is absolutely crucial to having a cohesive story that readers understand and enjoy. A plot is made up of all the events in a story, but it needs to be woven together with purpose and order. You've heard before, no doubt, that all stories need at least a beginning, a middle, and an end. Well, they certainly need to be in that order, too. Imagine how strange it would be to read a story that starts with the ending, full of characters and events you don't know. It would be confusing, to say the least. A plot is more than just a disjointed series of happenings that get thrown in willy-nilly as the writer pleases. They should flow and progress into each other, demonstrating logical cause and effect. Lots of writers plan out their stories well in advance and use visuals like a chart to help organize. In fact, you can think of the plot like a map that leads from point A to point B, the start to the end of the story. Some plots are simple and straightforward, while others have loops and zigzags and twists all over the place. Luckily for us, I have just such a map to get beginners started. It's fairly simple to start out with, since most kids aren't used to having organization and forethought when writing stories. They love to let their imaginations wander, as only kids' imaginations can, but this is a good experiment in something new. We'll look at it later. In our discussion today, I asked what the TSC members thought the hardest part of Stella Luna's journey was. They believed it was the way she had to live like a bird and suppress her true nature. Those were definitely some good thoughts. You can ask your child how he would feel if he were in Stella Luna's shoes. I bet being a bird wouldn't be very fun. However, she got a happy ending by getting to have the best of both worlds. So, now let's get to that plot map I mentioned. None of the TSC members had seen one before, and likely your child hasn't either. You can search online for a plot map, which tend to all have a pretty basic uniform structure, or you can check out the one I have on my website by using the link I provided in the video description. In essence, this chart has 5 big parts, but this doesn't necessarily mean you can only have 5 events take place in a story, of course. This is a simplified version. It looks a bit like a mountain, starting with a flat line. Then it goes upward diagonally to a peak, then downward the same way before ending with another flat line. The first part is the first flat line, which we call the exposition. This is the beginning of the story, where the reader gets introduced to the characters and setting. You're exposing him to the setup of the story's world, and showing how it may differ from our world. For Stella Luna, the exposition not only tells us that the characters are bats, but also that Stella Luna has been separated from her mother. The upward line represents the segment of the story called the rising action. This is where the plot starts to bring in the main excitement and tension. You can think of it as the build-up, or like the upward part of a roller coaster. In Stella Luna's case, this could be her time spent living with the birds and the struggles she faces to fit in. At the very peak, right before the line slopes downward, we get the climax. It's the highest point in the story for a reason, whether it's some major conflict or discovery. It's often when the reader feels the strongest emotion for the characters. Stella Luna's climax would be when she gets lost again and doesn't know where she's going, which parallels the first time she got lost. The descent of the line is known as the falling action, which is where things de-escalate and there is room to breathe again. This is when Stella Luna meets the other bats and finds her mother again. There is a return to safety and normalcy, while there are still a few new things happening. Lastly, the flat line at the end is the resolution, which wraps up the story with a satisfactory ending for the characters. It often reinforces the key themes or symbols. For our story, it is Stella Luna's feeling of acceptance and belonging among both the birds and the bats, which tells the reader that you can make friends with those who are different. It's important to note that although both the lines for exposition and resolution are flat, the resolution line should be drawn at a higher level than the exposition line, which visually represents how the characters should end the story in some way more fulfilled than when they started, whether through new abilities, understandings, or relationships. This ties into our previous lessons of morals and character change. What lessons have been learned overall, which the reader can then apply to his own life? Our activity involved the kids filling in their own plot charts based on an event prompt, and everyone had a great sense of what types of events go in each place. They were able to apply the proper amount of tension in the right spots, even in the context of their own stories, so job well done. If you'd like to try this with your child, check out my website for a more in-depth explanation of how to do it. Ask him why the events in a story should follow a plan like this. What is the most important part, or are they all equally important? Can you think of a different way to make a plot chart? What other events would you add in? For our free write, I gave the kids the word of the day, coalesce, meaning to grow together or unite as one, the way Stella Luna did with her mother. The writing prompt was to write a Stella Luna sequel, continuing the baddie fun. If you wanted to try it out with your child, think about where the story left off and how you could pick it up. Is Stella Luna still living with the bats and birds? Has she flown off to explore on her own? The possibilities are yours to command. Our surveys indicated another happy, productive meeting, and with that, Topaz Storytelling Club officially ended. Well, folks, even though TSC is over for the present, the memories I've made here are ones I'll keep forever, and the teaching experience I've built up will serve me well in my future. It almost feels wrong saying goodbye. I've treasured all the time I spent on this project, whether it was shopping for supplies, preparing the activities, making these videos and blog posts, or, best of all, hanging out with a wonderful group of kids who I know will go on to write more great stories. I urge you to encourage your child's creativity in whatever form it takes. I know I wouldn't be here right now, going for gold and teaching these writing lessons, if it weren't for that same love and encouragement showered on me by my late father, my writing inspiration. Look for TSC in the coming months, and you may just find it. Next year, I'll be in college working my way up to becoming a teacher, and I hope your child at that same time 1 year from now is a year brighter, a year happier, a year readier to take on the world. Words have power. I hope mine have made some small difference.